I'm Joe Duffy of OffshoreInsiders.com, and on behalf of SportsbookReview.com, let's take a preview of the Ravens and Vikings and its reasons like this why. I'm having another spectacular year with Joe Duffy's picks at OffshoreInsiders.com. Currently at SBR odds, the Vikings are a 5.5-point favorite with a pretty low total of 39.5. Going against winning teams, off a win as a home underdog, 110-57 against the spread. That would favor the Ravens. Of course, the Vikings, last week, they did beat the Green Bay Packers. You might say there were extenuating circumstances. There clearly were, as Aaron Rodgers was hurt very early in that game. I was exhausted. Don't get much sleep on weekends. My brother-in-law was in town. I told him that Brett Favre was possibly out for the year when the initial news came in. But anyway, Aaron Rodgers, of course, was knocked out of that game, and the Vikings were able to win that game as a home favorite. Now, fading such teams under those circumstances when we're going with a team that's an underdog, 59-23, and 78.1% when getting 5 points or more. So all those would favor the Ravens, all those systems. It's also important to note that teams under those circumstances, even though they cover at a 78.1% of the time, only 11-21 straight up. One of the dumbest things I hear regurgitated all the time, people say, you know, in the NFL, if you just bet the team that wins outright, they're going to cover 90% of the time. That's a classic case of inductive reasoning versus deductive. And this shows you there where, you know, in a case where a team is a pretty big underdog, they wind up covering, but not winning straight up. The short explanation, if an underdog wins straight up, of course they're going to cover. And for a favorite to cover, they have to win straight up. The only circumstance where one team's going to win and not cover is when a favorite wins and they win by less than whatever the point spread is. And with the point spreads in the NFL not being all that big, of course the team that wins straight up is almost automatically going to cover. Think about it this way. Two evenly matched teams, you're going to have the home team is going to be favored by 3 under those circumstances. The only circumstance where a team can win straight up without covering would be if the home team wins by 1 or 2 points. So if anybody regurgitates that dumb statistic, I'm just shocked how many people I've heard say that over the years. Don't buy pick from them because they don't know the difference between inductive and deductive reasoning. Now, conversely, home teams off of a win as an underdog versus an opponent off a loss as a favorite are actually 57-45 against the spread. Now, that would favor the Vikings. Joe Flacco, look, he's having an awful year, averaging a mere 5.42 passing yards per attempt. He's thrown 8 interceptions, only 4 touchdowns. But that's, you know, Joe Flacco has done that during the regular season quite a few times. As soon as you count this guy out is when he plays his best football. Joe Flacco is a guy, he needs to be punched in the mouth, it seems, for him to play his best. So my warning to you is, despite his awful statistics, he's got a long history of playing well in situations just like this, when it looks like he's way too old, time to, you know, call it a career as a starter for Joe Flacco. He comes up with his best efforts in situations like this. This is why he's still a starting quarterback. One of those terms I like to use, predictably unpredictable. Joe Flacco is exactly that. When you least expect it, expect it. Now, look, the Vikings, Jerick McKinnon, he's going to get a lot more playing time, of course, with Dalvin Cook out for the year. He's got some statistics. Can he do it by touching the ball a lot more often? 245 yards from scrimmage the last 2 games. He averages 4.2 yards per carry in his career, so he's a pretty solid player. Ravens have a player similar to that, very underrated running back Alex Collins, averaging 6.44 yards per carry. Key here, this is going to affect both the side and the total as we get closer to game time. Stephon Diggs, talented wide receiver for Minnesota, is questionable. He plays well on the fast turf, 20 receptions for 364 yards in his last 3 home games, 4 touchdowns. So as his injury status approaches game time, that's even more important. And we are going to continue the NFL tailgate party with Facebook Live with Sportsbook Review every single Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Please keep in mind, we're going to temporarily put the college football on hiatus till we can build up a little bit more of an audience. So I'm going to break it in a little bit more slowly. But yes, Sportsbook Review, Facebook Live every Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. You are going to get the best information possible, including up-to-the-minute injury information. Teams that are averaging 26 or more points per game over their last 4 games, yet 21 or less for the season, have gone over 46 and 25. That would favor the Ravens over. Essentially, and that is if the total is 40.5 or less. So that says when a team starts to be trending over, even if they are overall an under team, to bet the over. The Vikings are the number 5 under team in the NFL in terms of margin. They've gone under by an average of 6.1 points per game, and they've gone under a total of 4 of 6. But as I said, with an exceptionally low total, with both teams, I think, having some underrated guys who touch the ball. We talked about them with Collins and McKinnon. Such a low total, my free pick is to go over the 39.5. Remember Joe Duffy's picks at press time. We've got a wise guy play for Sunday among 3 NFL winners. We'll probably add another play or 2 by the time this kicks off. If you're watching, before the Saturday portfolio, we've got a humongous Saturday card. Visit offshoreinsiders.com. Joe Duffy's picks. I've been picking winners publicly since 1988 on the old score phones. And like I said, definitely join me on the tailgate party Sundays. For now, we're going to limit it to Sundays, the NFL tailgate party with Sportsbook Reviews, Facebook Live. Subscribe to their Facebook page, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Every Sunday, we update information like this, and we will have some contrarian information, a whole lot more. And like I said, join me at offshoreinsiders.com for the best picks in the industry.